Welcome to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. I am your host, Marco Buenrostro, and every week I'm here with the top industry experts, amazing clients, and all my vendor BFFs to bring you the best tips, advice, and juicy behind-the-scenes stories to make wedding and event planning a breeze. So grab your favorite drink and let's get this party started! Hey guys, welcome back to the Tipsy Guest. I am Marco, your host, and we promised you last week we were going to have Jessica back, so she is back.
Yay, I am back. Thank you, Marco, for having me once again.
Of course. I mean, there was just so much to talk about last week that we just couldn't get it into one episode, so thank you for taking some time to be here.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, so last week, we were chatting all about vendors and your wedding date and all of that stuff. But let's talk about more of the planning process.
Okay.
I know you mentioned last week, that you have your spreadsheet and then some things move up on the list depending on the budget and all that stuff. So I guess, we want to make sure that our listeners, that are also engaged and going through the same thing that you are, I know it can be stressful, so let's throw some information to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me dive into your process of planning. I mean, how did you get started? I mean, I know you mentioned a spreadsheet at one point. Did you have to read any books, or I know Pinterest is your BFF right now, but how are you getting inspired? What are some of the resources that you're using to come up with all the stuff that you have going on for your wedding?
Yeah, I didn't read any books. I was actually just kind of on Pinterest, and then I was on YouTube a little bit, and then TikTok, actually my algorithm flipped itself to be all about weddings. Yeah. And so then people on there were talking about a lot of tips and tricks. And so I started looking into tips and tricks that they were talking about and texting my friends. And so just kind of little by little, I think a lot of it starts with just I've never had a wedding before. I've never planned a wedding. And it's just definitely a different time than when my parents got married. So it was really looking into what does this even cost nowadays? How does this even work? So it was a lot of we didn't know how to prioritize the budget because we didn't even know what things costed yet. So we had to really look into all that first. Luckily, my fiance found this pre-made template that someone had shared, and it was a budget planner, and so it shows you on a spreadsheet where most of your money is going.
Okay.
And as you fill it in, it adds it up, but it had all of the things written out for us already. So then stuff that we hadn't even thought about was on there that we were
look at him finding resources for you.
Look at him. that he just did all in his he's look what I found, and he shared it with me, and
that is so
this
funny.
Is so helpful.
That is so cool.
There's a lot of stuff that we didn't think about. We for some reason did not think about invitations.
What? How are people gonna know about your wedding?
And then save the dates, and then just a bunch of different stuff that was on the spreadsheet. We were oh yeah, we have to think about that. We haven't thought about it either. And so then we started sending out inquiries to different people.
So where is most of your money going to?
It seems to be the reception. Okay. Because my hall, which is the Preserve at Canyon Lake, for those of you who saw last week, they have you do the bar in-house. And so the bar and the venue are a lot of it, and so is the food. So the food's kind of in our spreadsheet. It's kind of wrapped in the reception because all that's happening together. Yeah. So that's where most of the money's going.
And that makes sense.
So.
Yeah, because you definitely need a venue.
Right.
You need to feed people, and then of course they need to drink.
Yeah. So all of that's wrapped into one price. And so when you look at the spreadsheet, it's one big bar there, and then all the rest of them are teetered down.
Goodness. And then what are some of the things, for example, that you want to have, but they're kind of at the bottom of your list, and you're okay, so maybe if there's any budget left, then we can have or add this to
that's a
wedding.
Great question, because we have been shuffling things around a lot. We really love seeing all the custom dance floors on Instagrams and stuff. That's another thing. All the venues that you follow tag all the vendors, and that's another really helpful resource into looking into stuff like that. So that's where we were finding out about custom dance floors, and we found out there, and we were oh man, that is a lot of money that we might put elsewhere first before we would put into the dance floor.
I think a dance floor is
it's
so
beautiful.
pretty. It photographs amazing.
I agree. I totally agree. I can't quite get my fiance on board yet, but I really want it. He knows we want it. It's just it's lower.
Keep showing
on the
him the
list.
videos. Keep showing him, and he'll come around.
And he was like, we need to put something. He goes, we don't need a custom one. We just need a dance floor. And I'm like, okay, but then it's all just one color. You know?
Yeah, no, you need to make it. You need to make it about you guys.
I'm like,
you know,
don't
either
want just our initials or something cool.
Yeah, something cool. Like if you end up getting like a monogram or just part of the design of your wedding in general. It's so nice when everything is custom. Like for example, with us with the photo booth. You know, whenever the brides ask me like, hey, what are the printouts going to look like? Or what's the overlay of the 360 video going to look like? Depending on, you know, what machine they get. I always tell them, I'm like, hey, we customize everything to each individual event.
I love that.
So my recommendation is always, why don't you send me a copy of your invitation or a copy of any of the signage that you have already for your wedding? And we can work around that to make sure that our design matches the rest of your design so that everything is cohesive.
Sense. Yeah, that makes so much sense. That way when it prints out, the guests still feel like
it looks just like it. And they'll be like, oh my God, this looks just like the dance floor. Or this just looks like the invitation or like the table on the sign on the table and things like that. It's just a unique, you know, like small details that puts everything together and it makes your wedding so just unique and beautiful.
I agree. That's really cool. I was actually looking at your website at all the different photo booths and stuff, and I noticed that each gallery that you had a different emblem, and that's what I was like. You just talked about that, but I was like, oh, I guess they're all custom.
Yeah. Everything is custom, and most of the time, you know, I always get that question. Can you send me some samples? I'm like, I can send you samples, but just think of it. You know, yours is going to look completely different.
Right. Because you're going to match the vibe of the wedding.
So sometimes they're like, okay, well, still send me something, and then I'll send you my invitation. Sometimes they're like, oh, it makes sense. Like, well, let me send you my invitation right away. And sometimes they don't even get to see other ones. And they just, you know, I create something that is going to match their wedding. And they're like, oh, my God, thank you for letting me know. I would have never thought of sending you a copy of my invitation or anything else. But this is perfect because now it looks just like the rest of the stuff.
And it all flows.
Yeah. We don't want to just give them a random, you know, your name and date and that's it, you know, unless they want something very minimalist and, you know, they're okay with that. Right. But we really like to customize stuff.
Yeah, and totally makes sense.
And I think a custom dance floor is definitely, you know, something that makes the event look really unique.
I think so too. Especially it really elevates the space that all of your guests are going into and it centers it. And so I'm very for it. So
that's really cool. I love the floor plan at the preserve. I mean, it is so open. It's so big.
It is.
It has like all these windows, and then when you look to the right side and you see the staircase, it's just stunning.
I agree. You look one side and it's the beautiful staircase. Look at the other side and it's a big fireplace. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
You picked the perfect venue for a December wedding.
I'm so excited to have it there. I'm so excited. I was just hoping that everybody else loved it too.
Yeah,
and they did immediately.
we're out there all the time. I mean, we do weddings at the Preserve all the time, and it is one of our favorite, you know, venues to go to.
I think it is so well thought out. Every time I go there, I'm like, this is so well thought out. Just like the way the driveway wraps around the parking lot, like every little detail you can tell was really thought out.
And even for vendors, you know, for us that we have to go load in and load out at the end of the event, it is so easy to get to the Preserve. You know, like I think they thought about that too.
Did.
Like it is so cool that, you know, when venues and especially venues, when they think about every little detail that will make a wedding easy for the couple, but also the vendors. I mean, we play a big role at every wedding and making it easy for us to be able to get in and out of the venue so quick. I love the Preserve for that. It is so cool. Yeah. All right. So bachelorette party.
Okay.
I know you mentioned last week you are getting married around the same time as your BFF, and you guys are you're having it together? What's that? Talk to me about that.
Yes. So we haven't put too much thought into it yet. We both created separate spreadsheets, like Google Forms to send to our bridal parties. And both of us on there, because this is before we had decided to have it together, both of us had a checklist of like, pick any places that you think would be super fun to have a bachelorette. And we put like 12. And then she had the same thing on hers. She put like 12, I put like 12. And so like our different parties, which are mostly overlapping, they're mostly the same people, which is why we thought, let's just have it together. This
Why
would be
not?
so fun. But they were checking similar things. So now we're looking all over the place. We're like, it seems like everybody wants to do like beachy and warm and coastal. So we think we're pushing towards a coastal because we want our friends to have a really good time too. And like, let's all go somewhere that like not everyone's been to a billion times. Let's go somewhere new, like for all of us. So.
And are you guys doing just like a girls trip?
It will be a girls trip. It seems like it's going to be her party and my party, and that's about it. But it might end up, because my party's 6, and then with me 7, and then her party's 5, and then with hers. But we have overlapping. So, you know what I mean? I haven't figured out the exact number, but it's probably around like 14 people.
So, can you tell me maybe like just 2 places that's on your list?
Tulum is one of them.
Oh my gosh.
Tulum is one of them for sure. We're having a hard time figuring out how to get in and out, like flying in. Everything's like connecting, and then you have to taxi for like 30 minutes. So we're trying to figure it all out.
Well, but now Tulum has its own airport though.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. So before you used to fly to Cancun.
That's what we're seeing.
And then there was like an hour drive to Tulum. Now they have their own airport.
Okay, we didn't know that. We'll look into that. Yeah.
You definitely have to look at that
like,
because now it's I don't know if it's a direct flight, but now they have their own airport.
You go straight into it, and you can go straight to the resort. So that's one of them. The other one, we were all thinking kind of like the Maine area, like a very coastal summer.
Oh my gosh!
And we loved it. It was like a really big thing on TikTok because the summer I turned pretty. It like felt like that vibe. I don't know if you saw that show that came out.
I haven't, but I am obsessed with Maine.
Are you?
Obsessed. I've always wanted to go to Maine. And I've been doing cruises lately. Like I just went to a cruise to Alaska to Japan, and we were looking.
That's a long boat ride.
It was. It was a 19-day cruise.
Wow!
But it was stunning. But the cruise line that I use, which is Norwegian, they have a cruise that goes to like I think it's from New York up to like Maine and somewhere up there. And I really want to do that one. And actually, last night I was just watching a movie that came out on. It's October. Time of this recording. So there was a new movie that came out last night on Max. It's a scary movie, and it's based out of Maine. It's a little town in Maine. So I don't know. For some reason, I've been getting a lot of Maine videos on TikTok as well.
It looks pretty. It looks
beautiful.
Clean. It looks. I don't know how to even describe it, but it looks like crisp air.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone posts their food, and they have all like the crab and the lobster and stuff. And I'm like, this just looks so fun.
I mean, Tulum and Maine are two completely different
different vibes.
But I feel like I wouldn't know which one to pick.
I know. We're not really like into like the Vegas vibe or anything like that. So
I was just going to say, I was like, how do you feel about, because I know right now Nashville is very popular for bachelorette parties. I know Scottsdale is really popular. And then of course Vegas, it's always going to be popular.
We looked at Scottsdale a little bit too. We all went to college at UT Austin. So we went to 6th Street a lot. And so Nashville and like the different places like that in Vegas, like it feels kind of like 6th Street. We've done it a lot. So we're like, let's do something different. Let's do something very girly, something really fun. And so
and
it's
are you
really
guys
girls trip.
And are you guys gonna plan like the whole like matching like t-shirts and hats and things like that?
I bet we do. My friend is more of the planner. I love like sending inspiration and stuff, but she loves doing stuff. She absolutely lives for that type of stuff.
It's always so fun when I see groups. We'll probably have
custom little gifts and little shirts and like there'll be themes and I don't know what themes. We haven't talked about themes yet, but we'll definitely do a lot of themed stuff. We both really enjoy hosting themed events. So
I love that.
Our bachelorette party will probably have a theme every day.
That is so cool. I love, anytime I go to Vegas a lot. And every time I see groups of girls just celebrating the bachelorette party, it's so much fun. It looks like it's so much fun.
It does. I've actually been to a party that was like a bachelorette that was in Nashville and in Vegas. And they were both so fun. So fun. But,
that is so cool. So does your fiance, does he already have plans for his bachelor party?
He is so funny. All he knows is that he wants to do a golf trip. And he wants there to be 2 different days where they're golfing the whole day. That is his exact words. Like, I want there to be 2 days where we're just golfing the whole day. I'm like, okay, like, have fun.
I mean, where could they? I mean, I guess they can go anywhere, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they want to play a really nice course. So when I had told him, like, before we combined it together, I was thinking about Scottsdale because I was like, that's unique. I haven't been over there. And he's like, oh, like, maybe that's a good place for my group to go so we can go golf over there. Because he was already thinking it like a Utah, like a really beautiful area to go golf in, or Arizona, like Scottsdale. So he doesn't really know yet, but he's like, he can find a beautiful golf course anywhere. He watches all the tours and stuff, all the PGA tours. So I'm sure like they're going to find somewhere.
Like I'm sure like it's a complete different vibe, like what, like the way they're gonna plan theirs, and then what you guys are planning. Like,
there's gonna be no planning on their behalf. I already.
they're just gonna go.
They're just gonna show up
and play
with their clubs, and that's it.
That is so funny. It's so crazy. I mean, I'm sure you guys are gonna have a blast, whichever place you end up selecting. Make sure you keep me updated on that. Yes. I would love to see where you guys end up going.
We will definitely be posting it everywhere.
So are you, because I know like nowadays a lot of couples share their journey as they're planning the wedding. Are you sharing any of your stuff like on your TikTok or anything like that?
I have not started that yet, but I have started recording stuff. So I'm really excited. Like one of the things I'm most excited for is I'm getting my mom's wedding dress redone. Oh. And so I'm redoing it. It's going to be short. It's going to be like cutesy little sleeves versus like hers is huge.
Like for your main dress or?
No. It's going to be for like a courthouse dress.
Okay.
And I'll probably wear it maybe for rehearsal dinner or something like that.
That's cute.
So that's one of the things that like I have been recording little by little so I can put a big compilation video together when it's finally done. Like the process of like me getting her dress remade.
That is such a cool idea.
I got shoes in the mail the other day and I recorded my like
unboxing
it. Yeah, exactly. And I just recorded my fiance. We both made his little groomsmen boxes together. So I recorded that. So like I'm starting to record it. I just haven't put anything out yet because I want them to be like, I want different clips. I want different clips. So
accidents. This is television, radio, podcast. She's a little tipsy. It's a tipsy guest. That is so cool. I'm really excited. I keep saying it, but I am really actually excited for you. It sounds like you guys are having so much fun.
It has been so much fun. While it's stressful, it's really, really fun to think about. Like once you finally get it all set in stone, it's so fun preparing and so fun doing all the activities leading up to it.
What are your and I know you mentioned a little bit of the process of like setting your budget for different things. What has there been one thing that it was part of your list and then you just completely got rid of it?
That's a good point. That's a really good question. The dance floor, we haven't gotten rid of it. It was part of the list and then it moved because we weren't sure. Originally we had a videographer and then we decided we're like we might not need a videographer because we really don't like value. I don't know, like we weren't really sure like where that fell on the list. We knew photography was like the biggest one, but we were like, do we want a 5-minute?
What about a content creator? Right now the content creators are so popular. Have you seen those?
I've been looking. So that's something that kind of switched, especially when we saw the prices of the videographers. I think they do beautiful, beautiful work. And so that's why they're so expensive. But like in our budget, we were like, where does that fit?
Yeah.
So we weren't really sure. So that has kind of been moved. I know I was just last episode talking about the Super 8. That was like a dream that came alive last night. So that is not something that just happened. So now we really don't know. Like first videographer was on the list and then it got taken off the list and now it might be moving back on the list.
It's so crazy how things just shift.
It's so crazy how it shifts. Content creator was like when we took the videographer off the list, we put content creator on. And then now that you know what I mean? It just keeps flipping in a circle.
Yeah.
So if we find one that's in our budget that like we really like their work, we'll end up probably doing some sort of videography, even if it's not the whole day. We don't really want the whole day. We want just like the ceremony and like afterwards aspects of it. And then
yeah, we had a videographer in the a few episodes ago, and he was telling me, he's like, I normally shoot for like 10 hours, 11 hours, and then of course they give you a really good highlight or product, But yeah, 10 hours of shooting, it's a lot.
I can see why it's so expensive. Like, they're there the whole day. They start from like when you're getting ready all the way to like the send off. And so we can see that. We're like, wow. But we were looking at videographers and asking like, would you be willing to only do 4 hours? And that's harder because then it's like now we're asking for a custom plan that they have that they don't normally do. So it was more difficult to, I guess, arrange it in that aspect.
Okay. And I guess just a little bit of advice here for our listeners that are planning their wedding. I know yours, you're planning with a year and a half, in advance. So most of the vendors that you've been selecting are available.
Right.
But just a little tip for December weddings out there. December could be a little bit tricky because a lot of holiday parties are happening. So a lot of the vendors sometimes are already booked. So if you're out there and you're planning to get married in December, make sure that you start planning with enough time in advance because a lot of these vendors are going to be booked with corporate parties, all the Christmas parties. And of course, there's always weddings in December. So for us vendors, December is always a really busy month. So definitely, all of our listeners make that note that December could be a little harder to get vendors. Or also sometimes they could be a little more expensive, because there's such a big demand in December that also vendors could be a little more expensive during that time.
Yeah, that completely makes sense.
Yeah, you have a year and a half, so you're good.
Yeah, as we're getting closer, the more I'm like, okay, we got to get the rest of the big things down.
Yeah.
Stuff.
My gosh.
We have most of it, though. The thing I was most surprised about was I went and got my dress. I finally picked a dress. And this was in July. No. This was recently. This was like in September. September, we ordered the dress and we paid everything, right? We're like, okay, like we're excited. It's going to get shipped in. And they're like, the ship date is like the end of September, early October of next year. So I was like, I am so glad we did this now, because then you have to take it to get altered and all that. So I was like, I can't imagine if we had waited. Everyone says like on the checklist that like the dress can be chosen like a year out, which I think for most brands it probably can, but because I picked an out-of-country designer, I think that's what happened, because I'm like, wow, like I'm so shocked that I just remember thinking this is over a year away and it's not guaranteed to be here for like a year and 2 months or something like that.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like 14 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is crazy. So
all right, ladies, so make sure you get your dresses. You need to be, proactive with everything. I mean, it takes time for everything. So.
And then my best friend just got her dress, and hers is going to be here in like 9 months. So I don't know how it works. I guess the ship dates are different across the country based on designer.
Very interesting.
So just make sure you look into who you want and get your dresses.
Yeah, make sure you secure those vendors with enough time. I mean, because it's your special day. You want to make sure that you have who you want, not who you can get, like as a last resort. So yeah, well, Jessica, thank you so much again for being here with us. I mean, time flies.
Time is flying.
It is that time that we have to say bye. But hey, so I know you keep talking about this checklist.
Yes.
And that your fiance found. I would love to share that information with our listeners.
Oh, yeah.
So you can give me the link of where he found this checklist, and then we can definitely have it on the show notes. That way, if any of you brides, any of you grooms out there are looking for resources, we can give you that, where to find this checklist that Jessica's using for her wedding, which sounds like it's been really helpful.
It has been so helpful, and they organized it so well. They did all the math for you. You just have to input your numbers, and that's
Love it.
So yes, we can definitely share it to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, and I cannot wait to see the rest of your wedding planning journey. And I mean, hopefully we'll end up going to your wedding with a photo booth.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Marco, for having me.
Awesome. Of course. We have some wine. Let's do a little toast here. Okay. Cheers to your wedding. Yes. Yay. Woo-hoo. All right. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in today. Come back next week. Make sure you tell your BFFs about the Tipsy Guest. We are here every Tuesday. And we have our vendors. We have, you noticed today, we have a bride. I'm sure we'll have a groom eventually. And, it's just cool to chat and hear your story about planning. So stick around. We'll chat with you next week. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Tipsy Guest podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from these tips, spread the love and share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Next round's on us. Same time, same place. Cheers! This podcast is brought to you by MVP Photo Booth, the #1 photo booth rental company in San Antonio, Austin, and Central Texas.